Until everything goes smoothly with the presentation, I will share with you some thoughts about the debates of today. What is the main difference between post-war period and post-wall period? It's easy. Divided Europe in the post-war period, united Europe in post-wall period. Is that right? Someone will say, I don't think so. Looking in Brexit, looking in a row of crises to see economical crisis, refugee crisis, a crisis after another crisis, sovereignty, debt crisis. So are we in a better shape? That's the answer to give it to you today. But what was the fall of Berlin Wall? Fukuyama said the end of history, proved to be wrong. The beginning of the end? Someone will say yes. I will say it was the beginning of the beginning. Beginning to a new system which is not changing overnight. And President Constantinescu mentioned in his speech about the mentality of, I quoting, equality in poverty. This is still present in post-communist societies, and it's affecting the society in the post-communist regimes to move forward. So you can change overnight institutions, labeling, constitutional court. You can have another institutions from the democratical societies, but the mentality, the people, they do not change overnight. So I can tell you after 30 years, we are still at the beginning of the beginning. Because what the communist regimes did for Eastern Europe, you can change in 30 years. Because of very, very strong mentality and a very strong changes in the society. So yes, we are on the right road, but still a lot to work. So answering again, are we in this very moment in post-wall period in a united Europe? And I'll use the answer of the European people in the European elections. A few months ago, in May, we had one of the highest level of participation in the European elections. 201 million Europeans voted, one of the highest rate. What was their main message? Their main message was, we need more Europe, not less Europe. More integration, not new barriers. Remember what was the atmosphere before the European elections. We were very much afraid that the anti-European parties will succeed in the European Parliament and will open the door not to Brexit, to fall down the European Union. But the European people are much clever than politicians. The European people did a lesson to the politicians in these European elections, showing that we have to work very strong and on the right place in the right moment to have our Europe better united and stronger than ever. That was the message from European Union. Why we had Brexit, I hope will never happen, but why we had it, from my point of view, is due to the fact that we had a lack of communication. I cannot explain how it was possible that in Wales, where there was the highest rate of European funds implemented in Great Britain, it was one of the highest level of voting for Brexit. And I asked, did the people knew it, that the miners, everyone there got the European money? No. Did anyone knew it in Greece that the metro from Athens was constructed with European money? No. So whose fault? People's fault? No. Politicians did not act morally and correctly to show to the people what European Union it really means, really is. Because it's not possible to go in Brussels, stay on the same table, say how beautiful is European Union in the end, and go home and blame European Union for everything which is going wrong. And everything which is good is due to the mayor, prime minister, or the president of the country, or the parliamentarians. That's not fair. We need to change our attitude because we cannot have two faces, one in Brussels and the other home, blaming, because there is no perfect society. But definitely the European Union is the most important project in the European history. The only one who succeeded to bring peace and access to prosperity and liberty and democracy. The only one. There will be no other, no other project available, because this is the result of 2,000 years of history, trying different methods. But this European project, of course, is not perfect, as the world is not perfect, but is the only solution for freedom, access to prosperity. So coming back for the message from the European people, we should work together in order to have a better Europe, because Europe is the solution, not the cause of our problems. Do we have an answer to extremists and populists? They gain votes because we do not have the courage to face them and to tell to the people that their solutions are not correct and not implementable. They are selling just some ideas without source of implementation. What is our problem? We do not discuss with our people, with our citizens, their real problems. We have to share with them their worries. If there is a refugee crisis, we have to discuss why there's a refugee crisis, what are the consequences. If there is a safety problem, we have to tackle the issue, not to hide, to say there is no a security or a safe problem. If someone has a problem with the kids in the kindergarten or in school, we do not took the face around and say there's nothing happening. We have to face it, not let the populists to give some illusory answers, because just in the democratic way, we have the best way to move on. So first of all, it's our duty as a politicians, as a mayors, to discuss and to explain to the people what is happening and to have solutions. And to conclude this one, I would say that it's a big difference between communication to the people, which was happening until Brexit, and communication with the people, explaining, discussing, be part of the communication, which I hope is happening now in order to consolidate our project. We do not need to revive again the demons of the past. It would be very easy. This is the solution, extremist, again? No. What can we do in order to diminish the chance of reviving, having again the demons of the past? The only solution is more integration, working together, and of course, tackling the real issue of the people. So now I'm coming closer to the theme which I propose to debate very briefly, because this is one of the issues in the European Union which is affecting all of us in a way or in another. So I will present the solutions. Which are the ways to become more integrated, to give answer to the people who they vote in the European elections? And I have two small answers. One is culture, the second is cohesion policy. Culture, it's one of the best European tool a powerful tool to emphasize the European identity. We cannot move anymore just top-down European construction. We have institutions in Brussels, but it's not enough. We have to reconstruct Europe from bottom-up perspective, and that means culture from the lowest level possible in European, in every corner of Europe, through European identity. How many, just a short question, how many flags did you see in many European flags did you see in European cities? How many? I don't think so you saw a lot. This is the very first sign of European identity. Do you have European flag together with your national flag in the same place? In some places, yes. In many places, no. But of course, this is not as important as this culture, to work together and to use this powerful instrument of having universal language all over the places to strengthen our European identity. Someone said, the love will save us. Love will save us all. Now, someone said, culture will save us all. Looking here, I would say culture diplomacy will save us all to move forward. It's a joke, but it's something meaningful to have in mind. how important is this instrument in order to get people together, united, and find solution, not to be divided as used to be. And the second instrument is the cohesion policy. The cohesion policy is a very political principle of the European Union. It's supposed to be a glue to keep Europe together, to have access to the same level of development, doesn't matter in which corner of Europe you live. Of course, it's not happening overnight. But are we moving on the right direction? No. And here I try to present very briefly the answer to the brain drain. The brain drain is not new, as you may know. You saw this image from 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, people from Athens were complaining that their elites are living to Alexandria. And also, people from all over the Roman Empire migrated to Rome 2,000 years ago. What was happening in Middle Age? When the first university, Bologna, in order to keep their talents, their elite in Bologna, they did an edict, and after that established a death penalty if you are leaving the university to move to another place in the university. That's also Middle Age solution against brain drain. Did it succeed? No way. And it's better that it didn't succeed, because after that we had a lot of Italian universities who changed the Renaissance and everything in Europe. But was not a solution. In 70s was Bagvati tax, a tax on income earned by the skilled migrants in the destination country to the benefit of the source country. Didn't work. Was a proposal, didn't work. So, is there any solution? My vision today is the following one. We can transform brain drain to brain gain and having a brain circulation. This is happening, and especially it's a solution for European Union, having in mind that we have a market of 500 million Europeans. So we should not be worried too much if someone is moving from Romania to Germany, or someone from Germany to another country, or from Portugal to Italy, and so on. What we have to take care, I will tell you a bit later. First, protect this religion, freedom of movement. It's one of the fourth freedoms in the European Union. We cannot discuss this freedom. It's such a strong and powerful asset of our Europe, so we cannot discuss it. This is the very basic freedom in the European Union, and it's in the Article 45 of the Lisbon Treaty. This is my view. Everyone is free to move voluntarily inside the European Union, but no one should be forced to leave the country due to the poverty and other economical reasons. Here is the duty of the politicians from local, regional, national, and European level. Not overnight, but the direction should be in this way. What means do we have for this? I'll present right now. But this should be the aim. In European Union, it's free to move everywhere you want. But let not have someone be forced to leave the city, the country, or the region due to the economical reason. If this political principle would be adopted by the level of European Council and everybody will work to solve it, that will be a strong instrument to keep Europe united and together in the future. But unfortunately, it's not always the same. Some images. Red, sending regions. People are leaving from these regions to a better life in receiving regions. Green. Just have a short map of Europe to get an image of that. You may know it, but they are here. Some statistics is from 2017. 17 million Europeans moved from one part to another part. Mainly, they moved to Germany, to UK, to Spain, France, after that Italy, Austria, Netherlands, Belgium. Where they came from? Mainly from Romania, Poland, Italy, and Portugal. This is a fact. It's not a conclusion. It's a fact. The same is happening if you are talking about people between 15 and 34 years, the young generation. almost the same pattern in Europe. Some impact, you know it. What is the impact for sending regions, for the countries who lose talents, labor force? Reduction of human capital, economical growth, productivity, labor market changes, reduction of wages, limited capacity to innovate. It's happening definitely due to the fact that you do not have enough labor force or talents or doctors to be competitive. But what is important that is not discussed enough is this brain waste for the entire system. Highly skilled workers end up being unemployed or employed in a job not requiring their high skills. So you have a university degree as an engineer while working in a restaurant. So it's a brain waste. It's a capacity you are losing, and it's happening in the system. We have to take in consideration this one. But let's see, there are some positive impacts. Of course, I mentioned the positive impacts for receiving regions. They received innovation potential, economical growth, competitive advantage for the countries who got talents. But let's not neglect some positive advantages for the sending regions. And I'll give you an example of Romania. In 10 years after the European integration, people who left Romania to work in the European Union sent back 27 billion euros. That money was brought back in the Romanian economy to the families to support businesses, education, and so on. So let's look also to this component. European funds. In 10 years, Romania got 50 billion euros from the European Union. We contribute to the European Union with 17 billion, our part to the European budget. So we have a net contribution, a net gain of 33 billion euros. That is European taxpayers' money from Germany, from Netherlands, and all over Europe, money who are invested in infrastructure in Romania. So I can say that there is no corner in the Romania in this very moment which was not being touched by the European funds. From a street to a kindergarten, from a school to the hospital, for a road or something. Every corner of Romania got a chance to get this. And you can see the results in the GDP per capita from 2007 to 2018. It's a increasing involvement in positive way, but not yet to the middle level in European Union. The yellow line is the mid average in European Union. We still are a 64 level European Union. But look what was happening from 2007 when Romania entered the European Union in terms of GDP per capita. You can see an increase year by year. Of course, with the European crisis we had 2007, 2008, as everywhere in Europe was a problem, but that was a consequence of European Union integration. The same if you look on GDP aggregate overall. I do not insist too much why people are leaving from one region to another region. You know it. Job opportunities, economical growth, affordability of housing, quality of education, healthcare, good marketing of these regions, quality of life overall. There are pull and push factors. Now, what is the main risk which I do foresee in the future? These are the engagements of the European Union. For example, I will take the number 2. The European Union, according to the official document, proposed that in 2020 to have just 96 million people at the risk of poverty or social exclusion. Having in mind that in 2007 was 116. In 2017, we still have 112. Just 4 million Europeans moved from poverty above the poverty. Instead of having 96, we still have 112. So the European Union did not succeed to achieve what they proposed. And in this very moment, we have 83 million of Europeans living in low income and low growth regions. This is a fact which can affect, as I said here, the sustainability of the European project. This is a risk on long term. If you are not tackling this issue, and maintaining the gap as long as possible, that will pose a risk to the European project. So we need, in order to avoid such a gap, more integration, not new barriers. And how can we tackle the issue of brain drain? That's simple on PowerPoint, difficult in reality, but if at least if we are aware of it, it's much easier. So local, regional, national, and a supranational approach, multi-level governments, that's the language of European Union. EU cohesion policy, it is one of the main instruments for 2021-2027. As I said, it's the glue which is keeping European together, and it's a chance to have every corner of Europe with European money to modernize Europe. But what news we got from the European Commission is that we will have a budget 10% lower for cohesion policy 2021-2027. This is not okay. Why? Because it's affecting exactly the political principle of European Union, which is the cohesion policy. So the new Commission, I hope, that was the previous Commission, the proposal for the budget, I hope the new Commission, having in mind the signal of the European Parliament elections, will keep at least the same amount of money for cohesion policy, at least the same amount of money, not 10% less, because you are affecting, as I said, the main instrument. I'll make a short joke to you. A friend of mine for European Committee of the Regions, when we have been discussed about what is going to happen with the budget 2021-27, having in mind that the Brexit will happen and we will lose to the European budget between 11 and 13 billion euros. So due to the fact that not UK money will come to the budget, we'll have a gap of 13 billion euros. So there are two solutions: cut the funds or increase the contribution in order to make us apply to the Brexit. And of course, there are some countries like Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark, even Germany for a while, but not all the time, who are reluctant to increase the contribution of the nation states in order to have the same budget after Brexit, if it happens. And one colleague of mine said, look, in this very moment, before Brexit, every citizen of Europe is contributing to the budget of European Union with a price, an espresso. Coffee, you know, espresso. That's the contribution of every citizen to the European budget every day. If the Brexit will happen, in order to keep the same amount of money in the budget, every citizen in Europe will contribute with the price of cappuccino to the European budget. So from espresso to cappuccino will be the financial consequence to keep at least the same amount of money. Of course, it's a joke, but it's a very serious joke, having in mind that we need money for what does it mean, cohesion policy. Brain drain policy recommendation, I didn't discover it, is happening from 2,000 years ago. Good governance, in order to keep people in your country, what you have to do? It's not a secret, but just have to implement it. Good governance and effective democracy means rule of law, transparency, fight against corruption, trust in institutions, to have a strong institutional system where the people do believe that they can have equal opportunities, equal chances, treated equally in front of the justice and in front of the institution, in front of local administration, national, regional administration. Building knowledge economy, that's the new trend, fourth industrial revolution. The future jobs will come from this field. The industrial revolution, the artificial intelligence is taking place in the very moment of our life. Having in mind that you have a resource in talents, universities, focusing on knowledge economy, you have a positive advantage. And I'll emphasize just the quality of life. Here I do understand quality of education, quality of healthcare, quality of infrastructure, quality of cultural activities, quality of safety, everything, schools, to feel in a normal environment, like in European Union. Try to have the same issue, working on them, and people will stay and will come back. It's not happening overnight, but with multi-level governance, you will succeed to do that. Smart space, I have to finish. As I said, rule of law. We have the privilege to have here the former General Prosecutor of Romania, the one who succeed fighting very strong to keep Romania on the right track of European road, based on the fact the rule of law is not negotiable. You have to defend and to stay strong. And Romania stayed finally on the right track because we had in front of some institutions people like Professor Augustin Lazar, who is right here, Professor. I didn't have a chance to congratulate you. I do publicly from here. So it's not a secret to do that, but just using, and I will emphasize, besides education, is the best investment without no risk of bankruptcy. No risk of bankruptcy if you invest in education. It's the most efficient investment in the world. And will offer you solution from small to bigger scale. Is the ticket to get out of poverty. Or every year spent in education, increase your chances to have a good salary with 10% after graduation of basic school. So emphasizing in education, it's a universal solution. It's not, as I said, a secret tool, it's a universal solution. And looking at European level, development of European University Consortium, it's a solution to move to that. And also European education area by 2025, it is a solution to tackle the brain drain as we have in Europe. Digital connectivity, it's another solution, as I mentioned, having in mind that the fourth industrial revolution is happening here. Local and regional level, there are again solutions for us. First, to understand that we have a problem with brain drain. Discuss, coordinate with all the players in the society and make a strategy in order to avoid and to attract talents. And I will tell you what we have done in our city in Romania. And last but not least, look what was happening in other countries or in other cities. Because we do not have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel was invented. We just have to be careful how does it work in your region, in your country, or in your solution. So a few things about my city. We succeed to stop the brain drain and to have a brain gain, keeping our talents in the city and bring slowly our talents from Europe back to Romania, back to our city. Because we have some positive advantage, which is knowledge economy, the university city. So we focus the entire strategy of the city in two components, knowledge economy and quality of life. These two very important moments in order to attract our talents. And is, according to the World Bank, it is some kind of magnet city because Romania lost around 4 million Romanians living outside our city, and the surroundings increased the population in the last 10 years. What we have done, exactly what I said. First, focus on good governance, respect your people, transparency, and offering the possibility to be a part of the decision in the city. So I just want to mention, for example, the participatory budgeting process, the possibility to give to the people a chance to decide how the money they paid by taxes they are used to spend in the city. So they vote a project, and the projects which are voted are implemented by the mayor office. It's not very complicated using technology, but you have your citizen part of your decision. Because what is happening now, people do not want to have participation just 1 in 4 years in the election time. That period is over. People need more to be consulted every day. So a move from representative democracy to participatory democracy. You have to consult, to be in contact with your people all the time, not just in the election time. So try to use technology to have a contact with the people. Knowledge economy, as I said, I focus on university as a strategy of the city and focus the city as a hub of innovation, capital of clusters, and startup city. I can detail if it's necessary. Quality of life, from green mobility, education, safety, 20% of our local taxes goes back to education as a sign of challenges we do have for education. And quality of life, as I mentioned, incentives for investors, especially for green buildings, green environment, in order to, because you know the young generation is one very, very much involved with green and against pollutions and native digital, so have to take into account this positive advantage. So that's the conclusion which I mentioned before. How cohesion policy, coordination of other instruments of European Union together with cohesion policy is more technical, but you have to know that not just one instrument you need to use it. The entire instrument, the entire row of instruments from European Union to tackle the brain drain from different components: culture, education, infrastructure, roads, police, safety, and so on, and focusing on quality of life, using also the best practice of probas. So my conclusion is European Commission now, the new one, should actively support in strong cooperation with the European Parliament, European Council, European Committee of the Region, together with local regional authorities, addressing a completely program of brain drain. Because otherwise would be a risk of our sustainability for the European project. And last but not least, I'm optimistic. Why? Because we do have the most pro-European young generation from the entire history of Europe. So if we do have a young generation who is pro-European, they will make their future. So I trust in the future of European Union. Thank you.
Let's open it up for questions, please. Please in the back. Can we get a microphone?
Excellent presentation, sir. Thank you for your presentation. I'm a student here at the ICD. I would just like to know your opinion on what the European Union can do to probably tackle threats like, non-traditional security threats in terms of, not direct terrorism, but something like cyber attacks or something. If it ever happens in Europe, suppose I'm saying, in terms of both non-traditional and traditional security threats, because I think the European Union is one of the biggest organizations. So I think, do you think that reforms would be required in the European Union to tackle new threats?
To tackle?
New threats?
New threats?
Threats, in terms of cyber security.
Cybersecurity, safety, and so on. Okay. I'm not an expert in security, but what do I know? Two things. First, European Union cannot work anymore to have 28 budgets for defense and cybersecurity in every country. Otherwise, it will be inefficient and will not succeed to have high level of protection of our citizens. So from defense, in this very moment, there is a debate in European Union to create a European army, European defense system, not 28 budget. I do consider UK part of EU, and I hope will be. So not 28 budgets, but we have one strong budget with focus on research and keeping Europe safe. And in the same component, cybersecurity is the key. Because, before we use our iPhones, Army tested 5 years before, 10 years before. We have GPS because Army tested before. We have internet because the Army tested before. And I'm sure that in this very moment they are testing something which we, as a civilian, will test a few years later. So increase, from that perspective, the chance of Europe to be competitive. Because on the other side, if you are looking on the map, Google, Amazon, Alibaba, others, giants, no one is from European Union. Just on number 9, number 10 is from European Union. So we do not have to lose the battle with technology, artificial intelligence, and innovation. We cannot be successful if we are staying in 28 budgets. We do have a comparison market, 500 million Europeans. US, they have around 350 million. China, more than that. So we have to think big. And in order to be partners in this world, not competitors in a bad way, but partners in order to be successful. So yes, there are in this moment concrete policies in defense and cybersecurity to unify and to have a strong voices, as you said.
Thank you very much. Other questions? Please. Can we get the microphone up here, please?
Thank you again for the presentation. I am a student here at the ICD. You've talked about brain drain and remittance.
Remittance.
Yes, and I am African, and of course, after my master's program, I'll have a skill. I could decide to stay in Europe and work and remit money back at home, or I could, decide to go back home and also work there. My case could be different, but I am sure that you also have students from Romania in other parts of the world.
Students, doctors, professionals in Europe mainly.
Yes, and as a mayor, would you rather have my skill, or would you rather have the student skill coming back, or would you rather have the remittance from this? What is your opinion?
My view is the following one, and I took the example of Ireland. I studied very carefully. It's one of the most successful examples in European Union, how they succeed to bring back their talents and to make a strong Ireland. Because in the first 20 years after integration in EU, they had the same problem with brain drain. But the key is home. If it's a starting point, it's home. As I said, good governance, local, regional, national, have to be trust between authorities and the people. If you do not trust there, nothing is happening. So good governance, democracy, effective democracy, it's a key. Otherwise people, they have just one life. They won't stay to see that the system is not working as they saw in European Union or in other place. So first, let's work for a stable democracy and good governance. Second, after you do that, you work on quality of life. So let's see education, healthcare, infrastructure, jobs. Work to bring investments, work to focus your positive advantage, and focus on education. Everything starts with education. From the bottom up, education is the key. Maybe you're not solving tomorrow. Maybe you're not going to be back in your country. But if your country, as my country, will focusing very much on education, in midterm, will be successful. And what is going to happen, what was happening in Ireland, people after 20 years, 30 years, came back. Why? And what is so positive? They have money, they have know-how, and they have mentality, and they will change definitely the country. But it's not happening overnight. That's the bad news. It's not happening overnight, but it's not going to happen never if you're not tackling the issue to see what can we do on short, mid, and long term in order to deal with the situation. But everything starts local, national, and after that, of course, you'll have the phenomenon. That's my personal view.
Thank you very, very much. I think